Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm your host, Stephen Billings, and with me, as always, is your other host, Andrew Cabral. How you doing?
Doing good, Stephen. Doing good. Back here once again. I'm kind of really jazzed this week to talk about movies. I don't know if it's just a burst of energy that I wasn't expecting I was going to have, or whatever the case may be, or maybe it's just because I love movies so much. That's the reason why.
Who would think that?
It's the reason I get up every day. So perhaps that has something to do with it.
That's sweet, man. That's so sweet.
But
I wish I had the strength to be so enthusiastic.
Well, I find I mean it's not easy. Obviously, I find I need to find things to create my own self motivation because the world does not provide that for me.
Yes.
So I need to even convince myself that it's worth, moving in every single day.
Yeah, the place I'm at is I of course love movies as well.
Right.
Right now I have no time to and no energy to give any more love to movies right now.
Right. you give it all.
I give it to my family.
All every day.
I give it to my family and my job.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
it's killing me.
Yeah, you have life responsibilities and familial responsibilities that takes it all from you.
Well, I have the little bit of times here and there, and I get a chance to, if I have the energy for it, because when it comes to film, it's like some of these movies I want to watch, you have to have the headspace for it. And,
I feel you.
I find myself falling back on things I've watched before more often nowadays. And if I do watch something new, it's usually actually TV more than it is film, because TV is a little bit more easy to kind of just have it on, kind of preferably be watching it.
Understandable. And, as close as TV and movies are now than ever before, it's still a different type of medium that you digest in a different way, whether it be psychologically or literally, you know what I mean? Because TV is, shorter running times, and maybe the plots aren't as complex because they don't have 2 hours to jam pack as much stuff at you as possible, typically.
I mean, obviously there's some shows that are a little bit more dense than others, like movies, but I'm watching stuff like right now I'm watching Monk, and Monk's a weekly new mystery, new thing he has to solve in every episode. So there's not a lot of overarching storylines. So it's like easy watch. I've been watching a lot of easy watches.
Nice. I've got my rotation of TV shows that are that are currently airing, some that have wrapped up recently, and I want to finish those seasons off or finish a newest season off, and of course movies and whatnot. But I understand what you're talking about when it comes to being in the right headspace to digest a certain type of movie, and I found that to be rather kind of difficult this week with the slate of movies that we're going to talk about. Because we got some heavy hitters on the horizon. I guess that's about as good as a transition as we will get, but we'll get to those slates later. But it was a bit of a quiet week this week, and I don't know if that's due to us recording on Monday, so we got kind of the bigger stuff out of the way early. That's just the way it happened. Criterion dropped last Monday, Warner Archive dropped last Monday, and I felt like that would have been a bulk of what we would be talking about now versus last episode.
And the way that the month is, I think, lining up.
Laid out,
the end of the month is going to happen this week, and then I think, the first, we'll get Vinegar Syndrome partner label drops at the beginning of next week. So, but we did need to say this is spy number 117.
It is spy number 117. And we will be talking about Vinegar Syndrome because as the year is fastly on moving on its way towards its closing, because their Black Friday sale is coming up very, very soon, and they're already having pre-orders that they had this weekend. They're already having reveals of certain titles that are coming that will be available during that sale. So things are already progressing rather quickly. The fall is upon us, as they say.
Yes.
But before, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, before we get into it, another reminder. We will be live on our YouTube channel again this Wednesday, September 27th. We have Douglas McCainbridge coming on with us to do the Unwatched Pile, I believe episode 5. And I think you've already chose your title. I
I
still have to
have.
choose. Yeah. What are you watching?
I'm watching Kenji Mizoguchi's The Life of Oharu, the
Okay.
Criterion edition that came out several years ago, which I bought and have not watched. So
There you
hence
go.
why it's a good candidate for the unwatched pile.
Yeah.
I just have to figure out what film shall I pair it with,
Yeah.
which will come relatively soon, as
Yeah.
soon as I actually watch the film. But I know Steven is a little behind and hasn't chosen his title yet.
It's gonna be chosen
Soon.
tomorrow, so I can watch it tomorrow night. But I know Doug told me his title, and it was God. What did he told me? I need to know this. Here, let me look at my phone so that I
Yeah,
can
look
remember.
up the messages on your phone. Um, yeah, speaking of which, Steven, did you see the trailer for the new Nicolas Cage film, the
The
824 film, where
Yeah, I did
everybody's
watch
dreaming
that.
about him?
Yeah.
Nice. I know we talked about it before, but there had not been a trailer. But I'm just saying it looks interesting. Looks interesting.
He looks like he's playing the character he played in another movie.
Adaptation, maybe?
No, he kind of he did a movie. Um, he did a movie called it's the one where he's the crazy dude that goes to Afghanistan to kill bin Laden.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. I know
and
the movie you're talking about.
I'm blanking on the name. But he kind of looks like that guy, except for that guy had like a ponytail,
Of course he did.
but it had the same beard. He had like the same beard going.
I have to say, looking up Nicolas Cage's um
Filmography?
filmography is going to be interesting. Are you talking about the movie Primal? No.
No,
Kill Train?
that's the one where he's on a boat. This one's actually fun. He's on a boat and a jaguar gets loose.
Nice. Nice. Let's see. Running with the Devil. A
It's like
Score to Settle.
he's like it's like somewhere in there.
I mean, there's a lot here. Is it boy.
Come on, man.
Vengeance, a Love Story,
Hell,
Arsenal, Army of One.
Army of One. That's
There
it.
you go. I got there
That's
eventually. I
it.
had to go all the way back to 2016, which
Yeah,
doesn't sound like that long ago. But if you're doing it in Nicolas Cage filmography,
that's a
that's a
lot.
very long
It's a
time
lot of
ago.
movies in there. He's also got another movie coming out this year called The Retirement Plan,
Yes,
which I
yes,
think
he
has already got
does.
a Blu-ray announcement for it, and so that's another one. I watched the recent one. Uh, it's actually coming in the mail because I get all his movies. The one he just did,
Is it Sympathy for the Devil?
Sympathy for the Devil.
Yeah, I've seen that. That
Not
was
great.
actually
Not great.
he's good in it.
He's good. He's always good.
Yeah.
We know that. But the movie's like it's like it could have been good. And I know where that like I kind of figured out what was going on pretty early on.
Yeah, this is the movie where he's playing like
It's like
it's like Blue Velvet meets Collateral.
yeah, I was gonna say it's like Collateral.
Yeah, it's like he's Frank Booth if Frank Booth was in Collateral in the Tom Cruise role.
Yeah,
That's the character he's playing,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's entertaining as hell
yeah.
from
He's
his
great.
perspective.
He's great. But the movies, but I got to get all his movies, so I got that coming in the mail. But back to
So
the
yeah,
back
what was Doug's pick actually?
he's watching the Boogeyman, the Vinegar Syndrome, the Boogeyman, the one
Oh,
that came
okay,
out
that
a
one.
few months ago.
Yes, I do. I remember that one.
Yeah, I remember watching it. I told him I can't wait to hear what he says about it because that one actually I was entertained by. Thought it was a good little kind of like mystery slasher type of thing. But
It's another one of those movies dealing with like curses,
yeah,
evil spirit, vengeful spirits, something like that. I remember
yeah.
that. I remember that film. But do you want to move on to what we're going to be talking about
Let's
this week?
talk some Blu-rays.
Let us, shall we? So let me go back to earlier on in the week, like we talked about. Criterion and Warner Archive was on Monday, but then the rest of the week resumed. And early on, it doesn't look like we were getting much, but some stragglers here and there. First up of the week was this movie being put out by Second Run in the UK, which is Second Run is a label we don't talk about much. They're putting out this movie called Pearls of the Deep, and the reason why I wanted to bring this up, and the reason why I watched it is because Criterion actually put this movie out years ago. Not only did they put it out, but it's part of their collection in one of their Eclipse sets. It's I believe, coincidentally, it's Pearls of the Czech New Wave is the Eclipse set that it is a part of, and I've always wondered if they were ever going to put those movies out on Blu-ray. Now they've done it a couple of times. They did it with like the Bergman stuff when they put them in the Bergman set, but not really for many other Eclipse set stuff. So yeah, Pearls of the Czech New Wave was Eclipse set number 32, and this movie was the first film in that set from 1966, and it is kind of a bit of a manifesto film of what the Pearls of the Czech New Wave would be all about. They literally say here in the description, a manifesto for a new generation of young filmmakers. Pearls of the Deep is one of the delights of the Czechoslovak New Wave. Based on the stories by Bohum Hrabal, the film is a compendium of 5 films, each demonstrating the different styles of 5 emerging filmmakers. Yuri Menzel, Jan Nemec, Ewald Schorm, Vera Shitova, and Jaromil Yers. And the reason why Shitova is important is because um, uh, she the, that person directed Daisies,
Yeah.
which is in that box set, but also Daisy's got a Blu-ray release directly from Criterion. So I kind of just uh, answered my own question as if they were going to put more more Eclipse titles on Blu-ray. Well, they did
Mm,
recently in
they did.
Daisies,
Yeah.
which I was really tempted to buy at the most recent Barnes and Noble Criterion sale. I had it in my hand a few times, and it's so tempting to buy. It's such a wild movie, Daisies. But this film, Pearls of the Deep is an anthology film, and you get like several different um directors doing different styles, doing different types of stories, and they're all unique and they're all different. Um, they yeah, I don't know how you feel about anthology films, Steven. I both appreciate them and also have my issues with them in general because I feel like, as soon as you're getting, like, involved with the film, you're getting in with the pacing, with the story, with the characters. Usually anthology films, they're short films, so they end, and then you gotta ramp up all of that enthusiasm and investment as a viewer again, and so you have to do that, like, over and over again within a film, and if that start and stopping kind of, um, jolts me in and out of movies sometimes. I don't know how you feel.
I mean, I guess it depends. I mean, like I prefer anthologies that feel like that there's a thematic through line, even though they're different stories. You
Mhm.
know, I mean,
Mhm.
one of my favorite anthologies is Trick or Treat.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah, I
What's
think
cool about that is that they all end up kind of
it's almost kind of
overlapping.
cinematic universe. You know, like
Mm.
it's all in the same town, different stories going on around the town. I think that's why that one works for me because it's because there is it feels like there is some sameness between all of them. But you know, so it's not as you kind of say like
They're not separated.
it's not
Yeah.
jarring. It's
It's not
jarring.
jarring.
Yeah.
So I did wanna mention what the f 5 films were. Trying to count them to make sure they are 5 films. Yeah, they are 5 films. So, The Death of Mr. Balthazar, directed by Yuri Menzel. Imposters, directed by Jan Nemec. House of Joy, which is directed by Ewald Schorm. At the World Cafeteria, directed by Vera Shitova. And then Romance, directed by Jaromil Yers. Those are the 5 films in that make up this one movie, and it only runs at 105 minutes. So, an hour and 45 minutes and 5 films. Not much time is dedicated towards each film. But like I said, they're all unique and they're all different. And this release looks like it's coming from a new 4K restoration by the Czech National Film Archive. It looks like there's 2 more films that they're adding in here. Yeah, that by Boromir Hrabal. Um, yeah, that were originally intended to be included in Pearls of the Deep. It's called A Boring Afternoon. Had many of those in my life.
Hmm.
And then The Junk Shop. Um, and there's another short film in here called About Cats, Beatniks, and All Sorts of Other Things from 1967,
Hmm.
a short film on writer Bohumil Hrabal. Yeah. So I don't have any of Second Run's stuff in my collection, Steven, do you? Oh,
I think I have. Well, the thing is I think what I have has kind of become redundant because then
ah,
I bought them again, like the same movie again. Like it's one of the films that was in the all the Haunts BR set had a second run Blu-ray that I'd bought, um, and then it was in that, and I can't remember what the movie is. I just know that that's the connection.
oh yeah. I
Um,
mean, they seem to run in that indie movie foreign film realm with their releases. So that would make a lot of sense. They also released the War trilogy, 3 films by D.A.R.Y, which is a Generation Canal, Ashes and Diamonds. Ashes and Diamonds just got a Criterion release. We're still waiting for a Generation and Canal. Um, so like that's something that may be familiar to people. With Second Runs put out that um, they put out a copy of Daisies on Blu-ray, which of course I just mentioned the Criterion release. They're in. Um, but yeah, so that's that film. Let's move over now to something that we've heard we've heard before. Western Video, which is kind of the sub label of Lionsgate. And Lionsgate is one of those things. I don't think I've mentioned it on here. They seem to be like in the middle between the indie realm or the boutique realm and the mainstream realm.
yeah.
So I guess they count as both. Lionsgate.
I
What do you
mean,
think,
then,
Steven?
by definition of what we do, I mean they're not really one, but the way that they kind of approach physical media, you could say that they kind of
It's
fall in line. Yeah,
what's interesting is they put out like boutique types of movies, but with mainstream types of releases.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like their releases typically don't have the abundance of extras packagings that a boutique label would provide, but it is the type of movie that a boutique label would put out. And the reason why I'm making that connection right now is because they're putting out Blue Steel, which has been put out by Imprint. So there's the direct connection. And of course, this is the Catherine Bigelow film. This is coming out November 14th. And we've talked about this film a few times. I think we've done a review on YouTube of it with the release. We talked about it when it was announced. It's the Catherine Bigelow film starring Jamie Lee Curtis
yeah.
from the early 90s, part of the kind of 90s neo noir kick that a lot of boutique labels have been on. Um,
It's
yeah,
good, really good.
yeah.
Yeah,
If people haven't gotten that Imprint release, or actually,
it's
this
it's
is
in
only
it's in
part
the
of that
neo
set.
noir. It's in the neo noir Volume 2 collection. So
Yeah, I was saying if you haven't gotten that release, that set, or if you don't want to get that set and you just want the movie to put for whatever reason, you're a Catherine Bigelow fan, you have a Catherine Bigelow section like I do, whatever the case may be, you can get this and it'll be, part of that. I'm not quite sure what the if difference between special features, but this does come with an abundance of special features. Um it does come with the video essay by Chris O'Neill. Remember we had Chris
yeah,
O'Neill on and
I
he
was
had
gonna
done the
say. Well,
video
I know we
essay.
talked about it with Chris O'Neill.
So that
Yeah,
transfers over at least. There's the um, commentary with Alexandra Heller Nicholas that's on here as well. So those two things in and of themselves are kind of the important transfers over, I think, from that Australian release. And there's a couple of other things here as well. There's an interview with the editor. There's a there's a deconstruction of deconstructing Blue Steel with film historian Professor Jennifer Mormon. Um, yeah, there's a lot. This is a good film that I'm kind of glad is getting its due. Now, all we need now is another Catherine Bigelow film needs a Blu-ray re-release, Near Dark. We heard rumblings of
yeah.
that like a year or two ago. So far, nothing. So
You
far,
know what that
nothing.
sounds like to me?
Rumors?
A second site release.
Mm,
They would be the company to do
that
it.
would be a nice. That would
Yeah,
be a nice release.
they would be the
Um,
one to do it.
they do tend to lean towards the horror.
They do.
Um, that and Strange Days would be. And I know the UK just put out a release of Strange Days, but I feel like it needs another like more deluxe release. Just
Yeah.
that early Catherine Bigelow. Heck,
I'd like a boutique Point Break.
I was just gonna say, just throw in Point Break just for the hell
just
of
give
it,
me a
just for the
Point
hell of
Break
it.
Bodie on the front. Keanu Reeves on the back. Just yeah.
There you go, there you go. So that's Catherine Bigelow's Blue Steel. If you're not familiar with the premise of that film, um, it Jamie Lee Curtis is, I believe she's like a rookie cop, and and yeah, she kills a convenience store robber. She does not notice that when um that yeah, she takes that the gun from the guy that she kills gets taken, and he starts committing murders with it, the person, and then it's kind of a hunt for this gun, and she gets in trouble and all this kind of stuff going on. Twists and turns. I don't want to spoil any of it. But yeah, it's really, really good. Clancy Brown's in it. Always good to see Clancy Brown and things. But moving on from there, let's go to the other side of the spectrum, really. Let's go to classic flicks. He's putting out a release of this movie called Cause for Alarm with exclamation points. So you got to really emphasize that alarm. From 1951, starring Loretta Young. This is coming out November 28th. This is the description for it. Married after a whirlwind courtship during World War II, suburban housewife Ellen Jones, Loretta Young, copes with the fact that her husband George is now a bedridden invalid. Oh boy, that's a little harsh there. Um,
Jeez.
but increasingly paranoid and quick to anger, George is convinced that Ellen is having an affair with their old friend and George's physician, Dr. Rainey Graham. And basically, that's the whole premise of the movie is this guy's being super paranoid that his wife is maybe having an affair because he's just sitting in bed and just ruminating all day and thinking and overthinking and just all those kinds of negative thoughts that enter your head. He's giving into them, and he's becoming incredibly anger-filled and bitter, and all of those things.
You know what I want to pair this with?
What?
That movie Amigo. Remember Amigo? The one with the one where the guy, the two friends, and then his wife they get in a car accident, and the wife dies, and he has to watch his friend, and then like slowly like he starts to think his friend's like actually not hurt, but really it's just like psychological.
Yeah. This movie has I understand what you're saying. There's an interesting kind of twist that goes on in this film where he gets so paranoid that he pens a letter to the district attorney saying that his wife and like best friend are conspiring to kill him. Yeah. And then she finds out about it and is trying to get this letter back. And I didn't know that like you can't technically legally do that. Like go to the post office and be like, hey, can I have my husband's letter back? There's all kinds of like procedural steps you have to go through to make that happen. I didn't know how protective the mail was.
I mean, they tell you can't tamper with other people's mailboxes. So
like it's a federal offense to do all those kinds of things. Whereas like some other crimes are not federal crimes, but seem harsher in retrospect. It's just odd to me. But yeah, that's this film, and the film is directed by Tay Garnett, and I know that name, and I couldn't quite remember where I had seen that person's work before.
Tay Garnett.
Yeah, sounds like
Daggone it.
Daggone it. Yeah, there are a lot of actually, this person directed 76 films. Should probably know. Also including episodes of the new Loretta Young show. That's kind of cool. I didn't know this either, Steven. This is me going off on a tangent, so stop me.
Here goes.
Some like actors later on in their careers would get their own type of like their own shows. Like there was a Jimmy Stewart show. You know what I mean? And it's kind
of
like
the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Yeah, I mean, the Dick Van Dyke Show. I mean, it's like they would get their
own... Carol Burnett Show.
Yeah, there you go. And I'm like, that was a thing like back
the
back
Ben Stiller Show.
That happened in the 90s.
Even up till more recent times.
And it's like, I don't know. I don't think that's something that's from like a bygone era almost. Yeah. Even like you just mentioned the Ben Stiller Show, which was in the 90s, but like that doesn't seem like you would get a show now like the Adam Driver Show or
sure.
the
I think usually it goes for comedic more comedic actors get that role. I don't think they don't get, like I think like didn't the Wayans brothers had a show, right?
Yeah, in the 90s.
Yeah.
On the WB, which I watched. Yeah. But yet again, like I don't think like that concept really survived the 90s and maybe the 2000s.
I can't think of like
I can't think of anything in the last 10 years that was like
that was named after the actor.
That was named after the actor, or I mean, we even got like, Alfred Hitchcock Presents,
Yeah.
which had a revival in the 80s and of course was back in the 60s. And it's like you don't really see like networks or studios like selling those people specifically around a whole show. I mean, they tried to do it a few actually I'm dating myself now. I remember they tried to do that with Jay Leno when they took Jay Leno off of his talk show late at
Yeah.
night and they put him down to prime time. And then they moved Conan O'Brien to his show. This was like late 2000s, so not that long ago, and it failed miserably, like in the ratings wise. So that's why they ended up getting rid of Conan O'Brien, putting Jay Leno back on his show, and all those things. It just that type of variety show doesn't really work nowadays.
Right.
Um,
It could be that it's like at fucking 11, 12 o'clock at night and nobody's trying to stay
Oh,
up
no,
that
it was
late.
prime it was, like, 9 o'clock at night. Like, they moved Jay
Shit.
Leno to,
If
like,
it
a
was
9
up to
o'clock
me,
at
I'd
night
be
show.
asleep at 9 o'clock.
Like, yeah, it's like I would yeah, exactly. I know talk shows are obviously very different compared to variety shows or even narrative shows. I mean, like, the Jimmy Stewart Show, I'm pretty sure was, like, a family drama series where it was, like, him and, like, a whole big family or something. It's actually available on DVD. You can buy the complete series. But so, yeah, Tay Garnett, going back to that.
We
That
got
was my
back around.
whole
We
side
got back
changing.
around to Tay Garden.
So Tay Garnett did direct, The Postman Always Rings Twice,
Yeah.
which is a really great film noir from 1946, One Way Passage from 1932, and, of course, Cause for Alarm, which I've seen, and there's another film, 1 Minute to Zero from 1952, another film
1
noir.
minute to zero. That's a cool title.
Yeah, that's like a
It
doomsday
makes
type
no
of thing.
sense, but god damn it. No, it does make sense. Like it's a bomb, like counting down.
Well, yeah, it's like, 1 minute to midnight or whatever that case may be, the doomsday clock
Yeah,
theory
yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. Um, so yes, that's where I remember Tay Garner from, was obviously from The Postman Always Rings Twice. But moving on from there, let me see, where was I? Yeah, and it just says newly restored by Classic Flicks. There's nothing in the way of details when it comes to special features. Um, where do I want to go from here? Ah, yes, let's go to Shout Factory. They have one of their, I believe, their site exclusives. Yep, exclusively sold at the label's site is Crimson Rivers 2, Angels of the
Ah,
Apocalypse from 2004.
god, that's a classic.
Yeah, so Crimson Rivers, obviously the first one is kind of an underrated Seven ripoff.
Kind of.
I'm
Yeah.
saying that like
It's a little
'cause I
different.
can't think of anything else.
It's a little
Um,
different, but it's a French 7.
yeah,
Um,
and this one's not acted by the same director, but it does still star the same actor and
I was
Jean
gonna say they
Reno.
got the guys back there.
Yeah, they got Jean Reno
And
back,
Christopher Lee.
and Christopher Lee is in this. So if you're a Christopher Lee completist, you
Yeah. You
gotta at
gotta
least
get
watch
this.
it. I know the first film was directed by Matthew Kosovitz, and then the second film has a bit of a interesting, more I would say more direct connection to Seven than even the first film did. And the premise for this is that a murder victim with the same DNA as Christ, a serial killer mimicking the deaths of the 12 apostles, no one is safe as the deadly pattern emerges. A pattern intended to usher in the end of the world, of course. Pierre Niemans, Jean Reno, teams up with a rebellious young detective and an expert in religious rites to crack the case before an elusive mastermind completes a frightening ritual of terror. There you go.
Ah.
Um, and so we do get like 5 featurettes on this. The original French and English audio tracks, Making of Crimson Rivers 2, Angels of the Apocalypse. What a subtitle that just eye catches you.
Yeah, man.
And this is coming out September 26th, which is literally tomorrow as of this recording.
Yeah.
So they wasted very little time in putting this out. Yeah, that's Crimson Rivers 2. I like the first film, not so much enough to buy a sequel.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're putting out everything these days.
Oh,
You don't
very
have to.
true.
You don't even have to like it. It's just it's good they're putting this out because somebody's got to do it.
That's true. That's actually very
Gotta,
true.
but it was now. Of course, the first one was in the Imprint set Volume 2, and then I think Kino put out the first film by itself.
Let me. Let's see. Crimson Rivers. Yeah, it came out February 21st, 2023. By Kino. Good call. Good pull. It's like we don't do this.
I remember some things.
I think I actually just saw it because Kino is having their fall sale right now for the next couple of weeks. I think till October 10th, and I think their release of Crimson Rivers from earlier this year is part of that sale.
Yeah.
So once again, Kino's having
Stack it up.
their seasonal themed sale. They love to have like spring into summer or spring sales and summer sales and fall sales. Next thing you know, we'll get an October like Halloween sale or something for the holidays.
They just
Anywho,
literally
prices
put
are very
sales
good.
whenever. But they do sales all year.
Yeah, I know. Prices are very good though. But yes, let's move on from there and let's move over to Vinegar Syndrome because speaking of sales, like we just mentioned, their Black Friday sale is on the horizon, and they've got some new stuff that they announced, some pre-order stuff that's available to pre-order, and I believe it is. Is that 6 titles?
Well, there's a bunch of movies in one of them, but there is 1, 2, 3, 4, and in that fourth one, there's like I think 10 movies in the big box set, the Vinegar Syndrome Lost Picture Show.
Oh yeah. Okay,
has 10 films.
I meant titles, but it looks like the titles.
Well, what we got is Vinegar Syndrome Lost Picture Show.
Yep.
We have you're talking about the trilogy, the Prophecy trilogy. D.A.R.Y is 4K, and then Fatal Games.
Yeah, and then but then there's also Arnold. And it looks like the Curse of the Screaming Dead, and then that Evil Judgment. That was stuff from last month, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're looking back.
Yeah, what am I doing?
Yeah,
Steven, stop me.
I tried. You didn't listen.
You know what's confusing the hell out of me is if you go to the Vinegar Syndrome website right now, they've got D.A.R.Y, the Prophecy box set, and then Vinegar Syndrome, the Lost Picture Show. But then they have 2 packages here, and one of the packages has like those 3 titles. So one of those packages has the stuff that they announced last month, and then the other one has like a smaller one that they announced last month. That's what's confusing the heck out of me.
Well, what happened is that the pre-order stopped on Sunday.
Ah, gotcha.
So they took away some things, so it's not as much information there.
What I'm confused here is some of these are the pre-order the pre-orders for the Black Friday, and some of these are the pre-orders from their titles that they announced on September 1st. And all I'm seeing is pre-order in big, bold, bright letters, and I'm like, oh, these all count. But no, they don't. Yeah. But you're right. The 3 titles that they did announce were D.A.R.Y, which is a VSU release. So for those of you who are VSU enthusiasts or the VSU completists, you may want to jump on that. The Prophecy collection, but that only has the Prophecy 1, 2, and 3, and I think there's more than just 3 movies in that franchise. Or maybe there are only 3, but that's actually a 4K release.
Yeah.
Of those films, which I don't believe I've seen before, because we recently got a Prophecy box set from who was it? Was it Umbrella or was it Via Vision?
I think it was Via Vision. I don't know.
And those were just DVD. Those were just Blu-rays. Those were not 4Ks. So yeah, the Prophecy has in the franchise, the Prophecy from 95, the Prophecy 2 from 98, the Prophecy 3, the Ascent from 2000, and then in 2005 they had the Prophecy Uprising, and then 2005 they also had the Prophecy Forsaken. So technically 5 movies, if you will. But I guess the first 3 are the only ones that anyone cares about.
Well, they're the ones that believe that Christopher Walken.
That's why.
Are part of.
That is why.
Now he's the only one.
The first 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's the only one that kind of sticks around there. The first movie has a pretty
cast.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen it. Have you ever seen The Prophecy?
I started watching it and I was like, this looks boring as hell. So I turned it off.
Alright. Alright, so
I turned it off. I was like, I don't got time for this. I'm just gonna put Monk on.
no, nice.
Honestly, I tried to watch it. I was like, I got about 10 minutes in, and I was like, God, this is fucking boring.
Yeah, I have my DVD on the shelf of the first film, The Prophecy, because
Yeah,
I remember years ago, my uncle told me about the movie and the way he pitched it to me, it's the whole, angels and demons
sure.
thing, and it's, the archangel, the cool stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, that sounds fascinating." And then you look at the cast: Christopher Walken, like we've said, Elias Koteas, Virginia Madsen, Eric Stoltz, Viggo Mortensen, Amanda Plummer, Adam Goldberg is in this film. I mean, it sounds on paper pretty cool, and it is conceptually pretty cool in the movie. I'll be honest. I never sought out the sequels, so I don't know how good or bad they are. Horror sequels, as we know, don't have a great track record when it
Not
comes to
usually.
being good. They usually do not, um, unfortunately. So the first film is at the scene of a bizarre murder, LA homicide detective Thomas Daggett discovers a lethal heavenly prophecy now being fulfilled on Earth. In his fight to stop the forces of evil, he finds an unlikely ally in an elementary school teacher. Um, yeah, Christopher Walken plays like the angel Gabriel. Viggo Mortensen's Lucifer. Um,
That's a
yeah,
perfect choice.
perfect choice. He's
Yeah.
only before you Viggo Mortensen
No,
enthusiasts jump in on this. He's in this movie for a very brief amount of time.
you
He's
know
kind
who?
of in like one scene.
I was gonna say, you know who else would have been maybe even more perfect? And the only reason it came to my mind is because these two actors were in the same in a movie together around this time. A movie called, I believe, it's called The Indian Runner.
Oh wow.
Um, Sean Penn. If Sean
Okay.
Penn played Lucifer, I almost kind of would be like, yeah, okay,
There's been a lot of actors who've played the devil.
yeah.
Um,
Al Pacino.
Al Pacino, very iconically.
What's the guy
God is an absent. He's an absentee landlord. He's got that whole monologue where he
yeah,
basically just pissed at God because everybody loves God, and he's like, God's really just shitty. He's an
yeah.
absentee landlord.
Who was the actor
Keanu.
that was in End of Days that played the devil? I'm trying to.
Gabriel Byrne.
Yes. Yeah.
Gabriel Byrne, the Arnold Schwarzenegger End of the World classic, The End of Days, came out in 1999, right around the whole Y2K, the whole world was going to end or something when the years turned to the year 2000.
Classic. It's
Never
a
happened.
classic.
Recently, the world was supposed to end or the rapture was supposed to happen. One of these like lunatic cultist type people who always predict like the end of the world's going to end on some random day in some
Yeah.
random month in some random year, and then it never happens. Never
What they
happens.
don't understand is that we're already in the end of day. It
Yeah, of
already
course,
came.
clearly.
We're already in hell.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's what they don't understand is people people like we were supposedly told that there are aliens, and nobody batted an eye like a
Nobody
couple of
gives a
weeks
shit.
ago. Nobody
Yeah.
gave a shit. People were too worried about normal things.
Fucking
Yeah,
trying to buy fucking food.
I know. Like people are trying to figure things out. They don't got time for aliens and end of the world type shit.
Yeah. You
They
threw
don't got time.
you threw fucking germs at us through the pandemic. We ain't got time for that. We ain't
Yeah,
got time for
I
aliens.
mean, that was pretty end of the world, apocalyptical sci-fi movie type of things that we all went through. So right now you're gonna have to top that in if you're gonna scare people, you
Yeah,
know?
but the thing is like most people, unless it happens, unless it affects them in a really
Mm,
like
directly.
real way, yeah, nobody cares.
Right. Right. But back
Most
to the
people don't.
prophecy.
Yeah, the
Um,
prophecy, sure. Yeah,
so this set is it just says a multi-disc 4K set. Um, yeah, there's nothing much in the way of special features that's been announced yet.
I was gonna say I know some of these don't have all their features announced yet. So,
Yeah, and this is one of them. All it says is, like I said, multi-disc set,
yeah,
4K presentation and high dynamic range, and then additional extras following, coming soon,
yeah.
basically. So, um, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was just gonna say I was trying to find the premise for the other two films, but the first film is kind of really the one you really want to watch. Um, I'm just excited that they're getting 4K releases in general.
I mean,
Uh,
it's something honestly, I'd be interested in trying to
To be
check all
honest, I'm
these out.
very interested in buying it because I have the DVD and I've been wanting to upgrade to the Blu-rays, and the Blu-rays that they put out here were put out by, was it Echo Bridge? Yeah, Echo Bridge was part of that whole when Echo Bridge was putting out, like, multi-movie Blu-ray sets for dirt cheap, but it would be, like, 3 movies on 1 disc or something, or, like, 5 movies on 2 discs or something absurd back then, and that's how The Prophecy was put out. So this looks like leaps and bounds better than that,
Of
at the
course.
very least. Also Vinegar Syndrome, they put out some damn good stuff, but moving on to Daryl, which is a movie we both got to see, Steven.
Yes.
Um, it like I said, VSU line, which is which is their Vinegar Syndrome Ultra, 4K release, um, 2 disc set, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna come with some interesting extras in my opinion, because they go all out for the VSU stuff. Um, I'm I'm curious. I'm curious because the movie itself is good, but I feel like there's other stuff in the VSU line that was like, "Okay, there's a reason why this is here." Like, um, Six String Samurai or even Roadhouse, and I'm like, "Okay, this makes sense." This film, interesting that it's getting a VSU release and not something else, maybe like a VSA release or a regular Vinegar Syndrome release. I don't know, how do you feel about the movie?
Yeah, like you said, I enjoyed the movie. It is it definitely is a movie of its time. It's a movie that's, it looks at technology in a certain way that might not be necessarily, um, accurate. And it likes to it has what we like to call the Amblin vibes to me. Kids, small town, um, Stranger Things. I kind of said, hey, this is a precursor of Stranger Things. Might have guys that created that with the Duffer Brothers
Mhm.
maybe saw Darrow and were like, let's fuse that into a little bit of 11. You compared it a little bit to the Born Identity for some reason. Um,
Yeah, I don't wanna spoil as to why. I will give people the premise of the film. A seemingly normal young boy is found abandoned on a mountain road and adopted by a family who are increasingly amazed by his abilities before discovering the secret behind his real identity. And that's kind of the whole Born Identity aspect of it,
I get what you're looking at.
uncovering why this person is so special.
Yeah.
What's it all about? Where is he from? What's the real truth
It
behind
would
what's
have been
going
really
on?
fun if Matt Damon's character in Born Identity was like picked up by some family and they like watched after him until like people started coming and try to kill him.
He does end up, getting together with Franca Potente's character, and they go on kind of this
Yeah.
journey together. This
But
film
but
is not so much that,
but I was gonna say I
obviously.
would rather it be like a wholesome family, like
No, okay, I got you.
that took care of Matt Damon and he just started like beating which kind of leads to my comparison, which is like The Guest. It kind of has
Mm,
that guest thing where it's like,
way
strange.
more wholesome than The Guest, I
Well,
would say.
this is like I said, it's like Amblin. It's like a
Yeah.
wholesomeness like that Amblin films had, where it's kind of sweet,
Yeah, I mean,
you
he
know.
gets picked up by this family who has, like, a loving home, and they have
Who's the actor that plays his dad? He's in a lot of shit.
Michael McKean
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
from This Is Spinal Tap, as well as
Yep.
all the Christopher Guest movies, and as well as, Better Call Saul. He plays Saul Goodman's brother. Um, Michael McKean, the legendary actor.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a sweet movie.
yeah, I believe, yeah, it's a very sweet, very wholesome film. For about the first 50 minutes, it's just all family, joyful stuff. The kids are playing baseball, and then the real truth comes along in the second half of the film or so, and you get a little bit of that adventure vibe that you get a la Stranger Things. You know what I mean? Little ET action, like you mentioned with Amblin and whatnot. Um, of all of the films that I guess were around that time that tried to, capture the Amblin feel, mimic the Amblin feel. I'm thinking of Mac and Me, don't ask me why,
Oh
or
God,
even that terrible
that's
movie.
that's really gonna sell this movie.
Yeah, or or even what was that movie that you hated so
Really
much too?
nice, pretty nice.
What was that movie that you hated so much that was basically just a rip off of ET but terrible?
Oh,
The one
that
that Severin put out?
visitors of
Yeah, I call it Pod People because that was one of its alternate titles was Pod People.
I think it's
Um,
called like what was it called, like the visitors.
it was like extraterrestrial something.
Maybe it was called
And
Extraterrestrial Visitors or something like that.
yeah, either way,
God, it was terrible.
yeah, and
Oh,
it's such a bad movie. But like that movie, I guess tried to capture that thing, meeting this unique thing and bringing it into the family. It's more of definitely an ET ripoff, a la Mac and Me. But this film uh definitely does that much better. Like it feels genuine, it feels heartfelt, you know what I mean? It doesn't have quite the magical whimsy of it, maybe that's to do with the
no.
fact of like it's a little, cheesy at
It's
times, if
more
you
about
will.
it's also more like about technology than it is about like fantasy. It's not.
Yeah. When
It
I
doesn't have
initially
that.
read it, it
Yeah.
felt like War Games, like with Matthew
Yeah.
Broderick. Like it's got that vibe when it comes to certain governmental things going on. Um, but yeah, the movie's called Darrow from 1985, directed by Simon Windsor. Yeah, we don't have anything in the way of special feature announcements yet or anything like that. But I'm curious what it is. And I honestly, I kind of get all the VSU movies anyway, so I may probably end up getting this at a
Yeah. Me
sale.
too. Yeah.
I'm still I'm still behind by I think 2 VSUs. How you doing, Steven? Do you have the
Uh.
Chuck Norris one, don't you?
Yes, I
And
do.
Showgirls?
I do.
Showgirls was a VSU, right? Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I have them. I believe I have everything except for Beastmaster. Wouldn't that be
Ooh,
Beastmaster the first?
Beastmaster I do have.
Yeah, that's
I've
the one
got
I
that.
don't.
I've got Cloak and Dagger, which I think I bought at the halfway to Black Friday sale back in May or June.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I'm
believe I
looking
have
around to try
everything.
to find it.
I believe I have everything Beastmaster. I think that's the only one I don't have. I
Yeah,
can't,
ironically that you say this is I'm probably gonna
yeah.
probably gonna get either Showgirls or what's the Chuck Norris film, Steven?
Oh,
That was basically karate.
sidekicks.
Yeah, the Karate Kid-esque
Yeah.
movie. I
Yeah.
was gonna say ripoff, but not quite. So that's Daryl. Um, and what's the last one is this collection of movies. This is
Well,
a very
there's one
interesting
there
release.
is Fatal Games.
Oh yeah, there's also Fatal Games. But
Yeah.
while we're here, let's talk about Vinegar Syndrome's Lost Picture Show. Just because I feel like this is something that's so Vinegar Syndrome central. Like this is like their basic mission statement type of release. Stuff that is on nobody's radar, you know, and they're going to rescue it from obscurity. So let me see. How can I break this down? We are proud to present our most ambitious, audacious, and all-around home video first in honor of 10 years of Vinegar Syndrome. We proudly present Vinegar Syndrome's Lost Picture Show, a 10-film collection of long-thought lost American genre films, all restored from their best-known and surviving elements. This wide-ranging collection covers genres from exploitation to horror to kids' films, in quotes, uh, to underground vanity projects and a couple movies so weird they defy description. That seems like Vinegar Syndrome's bag right there. Included are Oliver Drake's forgotten proto slasher, The Las Vegas Strangler, also known as Tears for the Damned, much better title. Larry Crane's murder mystery slash nudie, Beware the Black Widow, Joe Sarno's stirring seaside drama, Deep Inside, Albert Zucksmith's notorious bad taste thriller, Violated, in exclamation point. Walter Burns' underground sexual freakout Barbara, James Newslow's nuclear holocaust scare film Red Midnight, Titus Mead's Ode to Forgotten Americana, The Last of the American Hobos, Carlos Tobalina's erotic morality tale, What's Love? Question mark. Charles Nizet's Sex and Gore Frenzy, The Sex Serum of Dr. Blake, the
Mm.
original, which is apparently the original cut of Voodoo Heartbeat. The first title is much better than Voodoo Heartbeat, in my opinion. Uh, and finally, Don Greer's jaw-dropping and unnerving, quote unquote, now kiddie film and the musical Rare Blues Apes of Cannibal Island, also known as the Pirates of Cannibal Isle. Um, yeah, Oh, this also includes Elijah Drenner's brand new feature length documentary, Against the Grain, which examines how genre film focused home video companies have taken the charge in preserving, restoring, and releasing so many works which otherwise might have been lost to time, which has been Vinegar Syndrome's thing now for 10 years. Um, yeah, so this is a massive collection. It comes with two large, perfect bound books of newly written essays and all kinds of stuff. This is going to be kind of a massive box set from them, a la like we've seen from Severin. Feels like a
Yeah.
Severin box set from Vinegar Syndrome in terms of all of its encompassing things. What do you think, Steven?
Yeah, man, it's we don't usually get a lot of box sets from Vinegar Syndrome. I mean, you might get like a like a trilogy or something like that, but they tend to keep things kind of parsed out in single release form. But yeah, I like this. This is something that typically I would kind of jump on, but because I'm trying to be a more um, responsible person,
Selective. Selective.
I will hold myself back on this one for now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I feel you.
I like this. I like this is supposed to be for their 10-year anniversary. Kind of like you said, encapsulating the kind of what it means to be a Vinegar Syndrome release. And yeah, I love the artwork. I love the idea behind it. This Lost Picture Show. I like that title.
Yeah, and they've done box sets. I'm thinking of their Gialli box set, Forgotten Gialli box sets.
Well,
Thinking of
I
some of
mean
the
on
hometown horrors or whatever that is.
this scale,
But this
like
seems like a much larger,
yeah,
broader scale than that, than those box sets. I mean those
because
box sets
they
seemed.
don't have an all the Hans BRs or
Yeah, it feels like
um
in that vibe, or
yeah
even
they don't
like House of Psychotic Women, something
or
like that.
or even like they don't typically do like spotlights on filmmakers and have
Hmm.
like Ray Dennis Steckler. They don't have like anything like that.
Right.
They typically just put out single releases. There are
It's
a
either
few.
single or double features, or
I mean,
sometimes
there's a
short
few.
film collections.
There's a short collections like the what's the one Black Dynamite. What am I thinking of?
Ooh, I know what you're talking
You know
about.
what I'm talking about.
The person who directed Black Dynamite?
Yes.
Rudy Ray Moore.
Rudy Ray Moore.
That's
They
who
got
it
the
is.
Rudy Ray Moore set, which has got like 4 or 5 movies in
Yeah,
it,
but
I
those,
think.
yeah, very true. But those were
Um,
all, I think, just like repackaged of individual things that they had already released.
yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
excited. Yeah, I'm excited about this set. I'm curious what the packaging is going to look like. Curious what all the extra features are going to look like on each release. Like we said, there's 10 films in here. So it's very exciting. But the last thing we do need to talk about when it comes to Vinegar Syndrome, like you just said, Steven, is um, yeah,
Fatal Games.
yeah, Fatal Game. Yeah.
Fatal Games. Um,
I'm wondering why it's not on the main page here.
well, maybe it was one of the ones that they pulled off of the pre-order.
Oh, there you
But
go.
I do have it here. Came out in 1984. No slasher has been requested of us than more requested of us than Michael Elliott's hood wearing, javelin hurling maniac thriller Fatal Games. And we couldn't be happier to finally have the honor of presenting it on Blu-ray for the first time ever. When a mystery killer with an excellent throwing arm begins brutally murdering would-be Olympians with a javelin, it is up to the surviving team members to unmask the assailant before they are too impaled. All right. Okay.
Nice. So it's a slasher film.
Yes. An Olympic slasher film, which
Gotcha.
would be more specific.
Yeah, and I do have the cover here, and it's somebody with a javelin, with
Yeah.
masked murderer with a javelin. Um, yeah, you're right, Steve. They did take it down because their pre-order period is up. So they just even if you click on the link that's on their Facebook page to when they originally announced it a couple of days ago, it goes to nowhere. Like it just says this page not available anymore. Um, yeah, so another slasher. Um, cool. So that is it from Vinegar Syndrome. Now where do you want to go, Steven? We have 2 places left. Which side of the world do you want to go to first?
Let's go to Indicator.
Okay.
So Indicator had a nice little four film slate. We have 1931's An American Tragedy, 1931's Honor Among Lovers, 1936's Desire, and 1932's Love Me Tonight, a 1930s fest. Um, so I know you're excited. This is all like pre-code
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm glad you brought that up,
Yeah,
because this slate is very much based on my love of cinema, that whole 1930s. There's some pre-code stuff in here. For
yeah.
example, An American Tragedy is a Joseph von Sternberg film from 1931,
Oh,
pre-code, Joseph von
Sternberg.
Sternberg goodness. It is based off of a book, I believe, that came out in 1925. Um, Apparently, a little backstory behind this. This was supposed to be adapted originally by actually they adapted it into a play first, and then they were going to adapt it into a movie, and it was supposed to be adapted by Sergei Eisenstein. And apparently that ended up falling apart because I think the studio didn't like the script or the way he was going, but apparently the author loved it, and that's the one he wanted to happen. And what ended up happening, Joseph von Sternberg kind of redid it and adapted it his way, and the author absolutely hates this adaptation, or hated this adaptation, and did so and hated it so much, sued Paramount Pictures to get the movie to not be released, and lost, obviously, since it's a century later and we're now watching it, and we're still watching it. So that's a bit of an interesting little caveat behind An American Tragedy. Um, it's Yeah, it's a very interesting story. Um, it's yeah, it's a movie. Yeah, the original author was Theodore Dreiser, which, um, yeah, he hated this movie, and the premise of the film is interesting. It's dealing with, actually, it's probably a story many of you have heard before, because it's they readapted it later on in A Place in the Sun. A Place in the Sun is an adaptation of this work as well, which, while I was watching it and while I was reading the premise of it, I felt like this sounds very, very similar to A Place in the Sun. So, um, the premise is as such. It's about this guy who he gets into some type of legal problem, something bad happens, and he basically runs away from town. He runs away from where he's living, goes to Chicago, starts working in this nightclub for like his rich uncle, and then ends up working in a factory, and he ends up in a relationship with this young, naive, like farm girl who just had moved to the big city and works in this factory with him. And they have like this relationship, and then he ends up uh getting feelings for someone else, getting feelings for someone who is like a part of the aristocratic part of the society, and he ends up gravitating towards her more so, and kind of leaving this other woman behind, but not really breaking it off as well, or not concretely breaking it off. But lo and behold, the woman that he's trying to get himself away from ends up pregnant, and so he's now stuck in a bit of a bind here. It's the 1930s. There are things happening here. He tries to pay for an abortion, but I believe she doesn't want to go through with it. So the movie's bringing up, or at least the work was bringing up abortion back in the 1920s and 30s, which is mind-boggling to even think of at the time. And what ends up happening is he gets himself in some trouble regarding her. I don't want to say what, because that ruins the whole story. But if you've seen A Place in the Sun, starring Shelley Winters, Montgomery Clift, and um, Elizabeth Taylor, you know what happens in that movie. And yeah, it's a tragedy of a movie, actually based on a true story, coincidentally or interestingly enough. So this movie, I'm glad it's getting, one, Joseph von Sternberg, glad to see more of his work getting Blu-ray releases. Two, I'm glad that this is getting some type of restoration, because the one that I watched on streaming or wherever I found it did not look very good. It kind of borderline really bad quality, probably public domain type of quality going on here. It did not look very good at all. So if anything, this is going to look so much better. It says a 2019 restoration from a 4K scan, and I believe this is a world premiere on Blu-ray. This hasn't been released before. Some of these titles that we're going to talk about have been released by Kino before,
Yeah.
or other places. But yeah, this is getting an audio commentary with Josh Nelson. Tony Raines is talking about this project here, video essay by Tag Gallagher. So this is very interesting to me because I have a Joseph von Sternberg section in my collection that I would love to add this to just for completion's sake. Really, it's an okay movie. The movie drags a bit for about the first part until you get to the whole like last third of the film that takes place in a courtroom. That's when things actually liven up a little bit and things get more emotional in those scenes. Um, but yeah, so that's an American Tragedy. And then the next film, Honor Among Lovers, is a film that I've seen, but I haven't seen in a while. This is directed by Dorothy Arzner, which is probably why I watched it. Stars Claudette Colbert as well as Frederick March. It's yeah, so it's definitely a movie that I have to get just because it's Dorothy Arzner. Um, and I just, you know, love those 2 actors in it. Um, I'm trying to find the premise of it now. It's
A Wall Street
yeah, there you go.
trader, Jerry, is in love with his secretary, Julie, but she turns him down to marry Philip.
Damn you, Philip.
Damn it, Phillips. They're always so just take over everything. A year later, realizing the mistake she has made, she follows. Oh, thing moved on me. I've lost my place.
Oh, no.
Make the mistake she's made. She borrows money from Jerry, leading Philip to become dangerously jealous. So, seems like a nice
It's
little
a little
comedy
love,
romp.
kind of a love triangle thing going on there.
Yeah.
Or I believe she kind of has regret about marrying Mr. Philip there, and then she, you know, tries to go back. So it's dealing with something. When did this come out? Is this 1931? So it's
31.
pre-code. So you can get away with dealing with marital infidelity, whereas opposed to after the Hays Code was put in, it was a little taboo, I guess. But yeah, it's something that I definitely want. 2017 restoration from 4K scan, audio commentary in here. There's some other things in here as well. You got some Dorothy Arzner short films or a selection of her short films. I wonder if those are the same short films that are in the Kino box set of the Pioneering Women. That I would have to compare because they don't even list them here. Um, but that's very interesting. I believe this is a UK premiere, so it looks like it must have come out someplace before. Um, I want to check up on Honor Among Lovers. I almost said Honor Among Thieves, just something completely different.
All right. Well,
Yeah, so Honor Among Lovers did come out in France on Blu-ray in 2021. But next up is Love Me Tonight. Um with Maurice Chevalier. This is a fun movie. Yeah, so Love Me Tonight is when the debt owed to Parisian tailor Maurice Chevalier becomes too great, he decides to travel to the aristocratic home of his non paying customer. There he falls for Princess Jeanette, who rejects his advances due to his low social standing. However, she changes her tune when she is led to believe he is a royal traveling incognito. This is a fun little romance thing going on here. Where Maurice Chevalier is like this tailor, and this young aristocratic guy just keeps putting his stuff on like a tab or like credit and never pays it. And so he decides to show up to the guy's house in the countryside, or his rich uncle's house in the countryside. And the guy's like, please don't tell my uncle that I owe you all this debt. He'll be pissed, all this kind of stuff. And he just decides to pretend that this tailor, Maurice Chevalier, is like a rich duke, and then also like a secret royal who's in hiding. His family's in hiding, or something like that. You need to know a little historical context for that to make any sense. Basically, French royalty was they killed them all off in the French Revolution, but then they brought them all back and they got rid of them again. It's a whole big thing. But anywho, you get this nice little romance between Maurice Chevalier and this woman, and of course I'm not spoiling anything here. His true identity is revealed, but she loves him for him, and all this kind of stuff going on. It's fine. It's really it's nice. I do like the artwork on this.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm, yeah, 2019 restoration from a 4K scan. Um, and some other good stuff on here as well. But we do have Desire that stars Marlena Dietrich and Gary Cooper. Um, when jewel thief Madeline, or Marlene Dietrich, leaves Paris with a string of pearls, she conspires to smuggle them across the Spanish border with the unwitting assistance of American mechanic Tom Cooper, who's portrayed by Gary Cooper. But retrieving the jewels turns out to be harder than she thinks, and she finds herself falling for Tom. Once again, similar to the movie we were just talking about, two people meeting, getting in a meet cute situation, falling in love, going on a road trip together, all this kind of stuff that leaves hapless romantic idiots like myself enjoying the heck out of it. Um, yeah, this is directed by Frank Borzage. Frank Borzage is a director whose work I've um, really, really started to like a lot. He's had a few films put out by the Criterion Collection um, that I've got in my collection, and also some stuff by Warner Archive, The Mortal Storm, which is the movie starring Jimmy Stewart. That was him. Moonrise is another one of his great films. History is Made at Night is put out by Criterion. That's a fantastic film. And he did do an adaptation of Farewell to Arms in 1932 with Gary Cooper in the lead in that scene as well. That's all. I really liked it actually. But this is Desire. Um, I love that they utilize the classic, kind of the classic film poster here, you know, film poster markup and stuff. This is something I definitely want, and I know there is a Blu-ray of this put out. I want to say by Kino in 2021. Yes, in August 10th of 2021. Kino put out a Blu-ray of that, and um, that has two commentaries on it. One by Sam Deegan, another one by historian David Del Valle, and this Blu-ray here um, only has the one by David Del Valle and not the other one. So I do want to point that out. This also has other special features that are exclusive to this indicator release. Yeah, that's all of them.
Awesome,
Yeah,
awesome.
a nice 4-film selection to end the year. That's the December titles.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
end of their year.
And always get excited about the pre-code stuff. So
I do love these movies. This
oh,
was some made directly for me. I think I'm just gonna throw that
yeah,
out there.
we know them guys.
Yeah,
They keep us in mind.
this is some Paramount Deep Studio stuff from back in the day. But speaking of ending the year very very strong, Steven, we've got Imprint, and Imprint went full tilt boogie with
Mm,
their end of the year releases, their December releases. What do
yes,
we
they did.
have?
Well, we got a couple box sets and a few single releases. We'll start with the big one here. I think this is the one that probably made you jump off your seat just a little bit. Film Focus, Marlon Brando Volume 1. Please tell me about how much you love this.
Well, I was surprised because the film focus that we've gotten with certain actors have been all surprising. I think we've got Jessica Lange, Jennifer Connelly, um, Gene Hackman, George Peppard. Didn't we get a George Peppard set?
I believe, yes.
Yeah, so we're getting everybody. And then we got some Brando from 1957 through 1967, and some of these films have been released already, so they may be in some people's collections. I know two of them right off the bat were popped out at me. So we've got what are the movies we have in here? I'll let you read them off.
We have Zanero,
Sayonara,
Sa-
Sayonara.
Sayonara,
Hmm.
1957. The Fugitive Kind from 1960. One-Eyed Jacks, 1961. I believe that's the one he directed. 1963 is The Ugly American. That's about me. 1964's Bedtime Story, and 1967's A Countess from Hong Kong. So 6-disc hard box set, 1,500 copies only. I think this is going to be a pretty good seller here. It's
Yeah,
Marlon
this is
Brando.
probably gonna. I know their stuff sells out pretty well. They're still only capping things off at what 1,500. You said, Steven?
Yes.
This is gonna sell out. This may even sell out in pre-orders. I just because it's Brando, 6 films. Not every film is great, but
Yeah.
it's got that moniker on it. Also, the fact that it's a volume 1 means that there's going to be a volume 2,
Yeah.
so you gotta get volume 1 if
Yeah.
you're gonna get volume 2. That's just my OCD kicking in.
Yep.
But this box set is interesting. You know, you get the highlights, at least for me, obviously, The Fugitive Kind, the Sidney Lumet film is incredible.
You think they had a hard time choosing between this set and the next set we're going to talk about?
What
Putting
is
this.
interesting is I'm wondering why that movie wasn't in the other set when it's in this set. Maybe they just we got enough for the other set
Yeah.
to make it whereas we need to squeeze in one more in here, so we'll do Fugitive Kind.
Yeah.
One Eye Jacks is of course I think the only film that Marlon Brando ever directed. Is One Eye Jacks the Western. Both Fugitive Kind and One Eye Jacks both have Criterion Blu-ray releases. I remember buying the Criterion DVD release of The Fugitive Kind and having to upgrade years later. Um, but yeah, Marlon Brando is forever. I don't know, forever a incredibly well known and popular actor, um, and rightfully so. I mean,
Yeah. I
he,
mean, he
yeah,
kind of pushed the whole kind of
the
method
method
acting.
acting and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. And he was in many, many films, kind of a larger than life individual outside of movies, inside of movies, just in general. Um, yeah, it's, it's some of his performances are like all time greats, and then some are just like kind of bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He really like he really swings for the fences sometimes, and sometimes it's like, I don't think this works.
Well, you can tell, yeah, like he did it, I mean, just for perspective's sake, he was in The Godfather and Last Tango in Paris on the waterfront, and then he was in The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
Just to swing the pendulum
Yeah.
into one side of the spectrum as to like the quality of Marlon Brando's career. It's wild. Um, it's yeah, but in this box set specifically, um, you do get kind of that swing of the pendulum, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because you do get, like I said, One Eye Jacks, Fugitive Kind, but then you get something like A Countess from Hong Kong, which I know does not have a great reputation. And after watching the film for the first time, I can kind of understand why. And the reason being is if you look on paper on that film, just on names alone, Charlie Chaplin directed that film. It was the last film he ever directed. Uh, it stars Marlon Brando and Sophia Loren, and you would think that recipe right there would be a recipe for a masterpiece, or at least a recipe for a really really good film. And what I found is that it's kind of just a mid film, really, like a middling film. Some people think it's atrocious. Some people gave it 2-star ratings on Letterboxd. Some people gave it 1.5-star ratings on Letterboxd, and some people really don't like the movie at all. And I'm watching it and I'm just like, it's so absurdly average. But I didn't mind watching the people I was seeing on screen do things. But none of the things on screen were particularly great. For the premise of A Countess from Hong Kong, um, uh, uh, yet again, some historical context here. Sophia Loren's character is supposed to be like a descendant of Russian royalty that escaped the Russian Revolution after World War One or during World War One, and she wants to leave where she was living, Hong Kong, really, and go to the United States, but she doesn't have a passport, she doesn't have a visa, she doesn't have any of those. So she decides to stow away in the cabin on the ship of Marlon Brando, because Marlon Brando is an ambassador making his way back to the United States. That's the premise of the movie. And so what you get here is kind of a it's supposed to be like a romantic comedy between Marlon Brando and Sophia Loren's character, but for some reason the comedy just doesn't have a lot of spark to it, and the romance doesn't have a lot of spark to it, so you get a rather flat movie with beautiful people in it.
Yeah.
You know? And that's kind of why it doesn't work. And you would expect it to work since Charlie Chaplin is such a comedic genius, and it just doesn't really work. You get it reminded me a lot of Bringing Up Baby with Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn. If that movie just didn't have any of the kinetic energy that Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant were giving to that film, giving to that role, giving to that comedy, it just doesn't have it in the movie. And that's unfortunate. I also do want to mention that a contest from Hong Kong did have a Blu-ray release here. I directly from Universal in 2019, like no boutique attached
Hmm.
to it. You can still find that release for $25 on Amazon, which seems a bit absurd to me. Um, and it's yeah, you can find that here, or you can get this release, which I do want to check what special features are on this release. Because what is unique to I think this set and even all of these releases is we get an abundance of new special features in these releases, which was really nice to see. Um, so yeah, a Countess from Hong Kong has two commentaries, one by film historians Lee Pfeiffer and Paul Scrabo, an audio commentary by Chaplin biographer Jeffrey Vance, and there's a new interview with actor Michael Medwin. And then you get some other things here like newsreel footage, which aren't really you get newsreel footage from the premiere in 1967. But other films here um, you get new audio commentaries on each release of these films. Um, and then One Eye Jacks gets a plethora of new special features that I'm pretty sure you will not find on the old Criterion release. That was pleasant. Our buddy Adrian Martin, who was a guest on our show twice actually, Stephen.
Yeah, he
He did
popped in on the 100th
yeah, he popped in the
episode.
100 episode. He did the audio commentary for Fugitive Kind, which is new to
Nice.
this as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is a mega set, a real mega set here. We've got another mega set following it up. Damn.
This one I mean I'd like
Yeah,
Brando, but
this one,
I'm more interested in.
if you only have the money to get one imprint box set from this release, this is a good one. This is a
This
good
is
one.
the one I mean, not only because I already have seen at least half of these movies and well own them too, but once again, volume 1. So uh, you know, I'm excited to get my hands on this one. Directed by Sidney Lumet, volume 1, which includes The Pawnbroker from 64, from 1966, The Group from 1967, The Deadly Affair from 72, Child's Play from 1973, The Offense, and from 1973, Serpico. So some heavy hitters in here, some more under the radar, Lumet.
Yeah,
Um,
I would make this set here is kind of his stuff leading up to and then dipping your toe into his 70s like legendary run of movies with
yeah,
Serpico. You know what I mean? You get like the mid to late 60s stuff and then the early 70s stuff and then you get Serpico, which then kicks everything into high gear with all the other stuff like Dog Day Afternoon, Network, I mean, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a really cool set from that regard. Just to put Sidney Lumet in historical perspective and to get a snapshot of that time of his career is really cool.
well,
Also, some good movies in here too.
well, yeah. Just for me, is I think we've said it multiple times. It's just he's a filmmaker that I think people they know the name, but it's like there's somewhat of like an underappreciation. I feel like for how like immense his career was, like
Yeah.
and how many great movies he made throughout a like 50-year directing career,
Yeah, if you consider that his
something like
first
that.
film was 12 Angry Men in
Yeah,
1959, and then his last film was Before the Devil Knows You're Dead.
yeah,
Um,
good underrated film.
yeah, I mean, from wire to wire, it's a pretty damn good career,
I
and
mean,
these
just
and he's a damn good director.
yeah,
Revisiting some of these films or visiting some of these films for the first time, man, you can tell when a director kind of makes you give something to the film when you're watching it. To at
Yeah.
the end, you're like, "Damn, I'm tired." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and not tired in a bad way. Sometimes you watch movies that are just bad and they just drain the life out of you. But and then you sometimes you watch amazing films which also have that same effect, but it's different contextually. And that's what I
Yeah.
felt with Sidney Lumet. That's what I was, when we were talking early on in our intro about having to be in the right frame of mind to watch certain movies. I feel like you have to be in the right frame of mind to watch a Sidney Lumet film because
Yeah.
he's going to ask so much of you as a viewer and take so much from you as a viewer, but in a good way. And that's how I found going through some of these films. What excites me the most right now is The Pawnbroker
Yeah.
is getting a new audio commentary here, and also getting a video essay as well. From the previous releases we've gotten of the Pawnbroker have been pretty bare bones. There's been a DVD put out by I think both. Yeah, there was a DVD put out by Kino. There's a Blu-ray put out by Kino, which I don't think has any special features. And then I think there's a Blu-ray that came out recently from Network in the UK. I think it was them, and I don't think that one had any special features either. And so it's just nice to have that movie have something
Yeah.
because The Pawnbroker is such an underrated
God, that movie's
movie,
so good.
and the movie's so good.
The
Um,
photography in that film, I mean, it's black and white.
Beautiful. Oh, you know what? It was BFI Video. That's who put out that
Okay.
recent Blu-ray in 2021, and yeah, it um I don't think it. I'm not sure if it had any special features. I can't find any details on it. That
I have the release, but I don't know where it is. It's
it's on your
somewhere.
shelf somewhere.
So it's somewhere.
I can tell you the Kino one doesn't.
Yeah.
So if you've been a fan of that movie for this time, it's starring Rod Steiger. It's just nice to get something in the form of a re-release from it.
Yeah.
It's got a 1080p high definition presentation on Blu-ray from a 2K scan. I mean, it could be the same transfer that's on that BFI video release. Um, I'm not sure, uh, but just nice to get it. I didn't get to see the movie The Group. Um, because the movie is like 2.5 hours long, and
Yeah.
I couldn't get around to seeing it, but I really wanted to see it. That's got an audio commentary by Adrian Martin, once again, him making an appearance. The Deadly Affair. Um, this is an interesting movie, um, that is an adaptation of a John le Carré novel. It's actually his debut novel, Call for the Dead, is the title's name, and this movie stars um, James Mason. James Mason's in this film. Puzzled by the suicide of a man he's recently investigated, a British secret agent persists with his inquiries despite being warned off by the Foreign Office. What he uncovers has dire consequences. So it's kind of one of those espionage mystery films, a little with the setting of the Cold War in the background. Basically, that's what John le Carré was known for, making these Cold War spy thriller novels that then got adapted into miniseries or movies. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, that's the one I think that everybody tends to know the most. The Spy Who Came in from the Cold, put out by Criterion, is another one of those films. It was just nice to just reacquaint myself with uh, James Mason as an actor. I don't get to watch a lot of his films, or at least I haven't delved into a lot of his films, and it was just nice to see him flex his acting muscles in this movie. Great actor. He was a great actor. Um, but after that, Child's Play, not the movie you're thinking of, Steven.
No,
Not the
no,
doll one.
not with Chucky in it.
Not the
No.
doll one, but one that is nearly as sinister, if you will. So Child's Play is from 1972, and we have, I believe James Mason once again is in this film, and it's it's a movie um, dealing with an all boys school, dealing with some sinister things going on behind the scenes. So, at an exclusive boys' school, a new gym teacher is drawn into a feud between two older instructors, and he discovers that everything at the school is not quite as staid, tranquil, and harmless as it seems. So, the two older instructors are Robert Preston and James Mason, and they're like longtime colleagues that have like this kind of feud with one another. One is one leads the junior class and one leads the senior class in this private high school, if you will. And Bo Bridges is this new gym teacher who used to actually go to the school. He was a student there 9 years previously and knows these two people because he was instructed by them. And he gets caught up in their machinations and their rivalry between one another. And what keeps happening is students keep like beating up other students viciously in this school, maiming them in harsh ways. Like one kid has like his eye poked out or something. It's like crazy things are happening at the school. Like the stuff that it reminded me of at in Harry Potter where Hogwarts there would just be bad shit happening all the time, and it's like what's going on? We got to protect these kids, or what is going on with these kids in the situation here, and that's kind of what it reminded me of. A really interesting kind of climax to this film. James Mason goes slowly insane in this movie from like psychological things that's going on with him and psychological torture and things like that. It's good. It's a really good film. I really liked it. So that's Child's Play. It's a movie I had never heard of actually until I watched it. The Offense, which I think is a movie that we've both seen, Steven.
Yeah. I remember rewatching it
You
when
want to
Sean
see a
Connery
harsh
passed.
movie.
Yeah.
This movie is harsh. It is and it's based on I believe it's based on a play.
Yes.
And it's just Sean Connery talking for an hour and 50 minutes. And
If you
it's
want to
all
just
set
watch the Sean Connery just acting,
acting his ass off, really.
yeah.
Like just manically at times, just acting his ass off. So he is a police officer or like a detective who is dealing with like child abductions, assault on underage children and stuff like that, and just horrific crimes of that regard. And basically, after so many years of being on the job, he just finally snaps. He finally snaps and he beats the suspect to death. And then there's a subsequent investigation afterward as to why he did it, what happened, what's going on with him. And it's basically just him being all consumed by the horrors that he's had to go through in this job all these years. And yeah, it's an interestingly structured movie because sometimes you get flashbacks, you get um flashbacks that may be true, maybe not be true. What is interesting is that the main case that causes him to break kind of fades into the background and it's kind of just a MacGuffin in a way in which to explore the idea of what these crimes do to the people investigating them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very powerful, very heavy movie. I mean, and it's a weighty film to watch because it's just talking for nearly 2 hours, as most films based off of plays are. Um, yeah, some of the best acting you'll see from Sean Connery, Trevor Howard's in the film as well. Um, yeah, really good stuff. Really good stuff. Is that
And then
Oh,
Serpico.
Serpico, we all know. Talk about police
Well,
stuff,
we talked about that. We talked about this recently with the Kino release that's getting a 4K.
I was gonna say I guess the one thing that may hold people back from this set is you may have to end up buying Serpico for the upteenth time.
Well, I mean, The Offense, I believe, has a Kino release as well.
Yeah, The Offense has a Kino release as well for many, many years. I've toyed with buying that release for so many years.
Yeah.
Serpico has gotten a DVD release from Paramount. I'm pretty sure it's gotten a Blu-ray release from Paramount. It's got that 4K release from Kino that you just said. It's got this release now, so it's Serpico has been released several times. But that's the Imprint box set from um
Sidney
of
Lumet.
Sidney Lumet. I
Yeah.
didn't know what I was saying there. Yeah, I do want to mention there is a video essay by Kat Ellinger on Child's Play.
Yeah. Well, also, there is a new feature documentary on this called One Step Further, Becoming Lumet.
Oh, yes. So I
So
think that's about Sidney Lumet's career.
telling the first half of his celebrated filmmaking career
Oh, you know
from
what
his
that
early
means.
beginnings as a director for television to the release of Serpico. So I'm guessing that there's more to this documentary that maybe is going to be released in another volume.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this also has special features on it as well. It's got a perfectly outrageous cut editing Lumet, an all-new featurette with award-winning editor Alan Heim discussing his working relationship with Sidney Lumet, uh, new his favorite protagonist designing Lumet, or new featurette with production designer Philip Rosenberg discussing his collaboration with Sidney Lumet. And then lastly, here is Man with No Anger scoring Lumet, an all new featurette with film music historian Daniel Schweiger discussing acclaimed composer Quincy Jones and his collaboration with Sidney Lumet. So you not only get that documentary on there, you get extra features pertaining specifically to Lumet. This box set is amazing.
Yeah.
Like it is going to be a Sidney Lumet like masterclass in one box set. This thing's going to sell out so damn fast. So
Mm.
damn fast.
Yep.
But that's not the only two things. Those are the headliners. We got another films down here. And Stephen, what are they?
Well, we got a movie directed by Mr. Bob Fosse, Lenny, starring Dustin Hoffman. This one I think has been pretty hard to find until this release here. So.
Yeah, there was actually a Blu-ray release once upon a time by Twilight Time way back in 2015. And I say that because 2015 was now 8 years ago. So my goodness, how time flies. That's long out of print. You can find that probably reselling for super amounts of cash, but fear not, you don't need to anymore because you've got this new release here, and this is a biopic of sorts, starring Dustin Hoffman as the famed comedian Lenny Bruce, and yeah, it's a movie that is told in a very fractured narrative, and you really only get the kind of early starts of his career in the 1950s. And that's really where the focus of the film really, you know, weighs heavily on. And I thought um, Dustin Hoffman was amazing in this movie as Lenny Bruce. I thought the direction by Bob Fosse was a unique approach to a biopic. It's not a birth to death biopic. It's a movie more about character than anything, and kind of really exploring the controversial life and career of Lenny Bruce. At the time that he was operating, um, he had a very highly publicized criminal record, and he would be getting arrested just for saying things. It's
Yeah.
baffling to me, and not saying and saying things that today in hindsight are like stuff people say all the time in everyday language. You know what I mean? I mean, it's vulgar, it's sexual, it's all those things, but I've never seen anybody get arrested for saying the things that he was saying back then in the
Yeah.
50s now. Um, it's the cops would show up to his shows, to his comedy shows just to wait for him to say something so they could arrest him. That's kind of wild to me,
Yeah.
you know?
Well.
You did get to see a little bit of this in the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel television series that
Mm-hmm.
was on Amazon Prime. There was a great actor in there who played Lenny Bruce incredibly well, really phenomenal, and it does cover a lot of his stuff, his career, and things like that. Obviously, the show wasn't about that, but he as a character was in it. But this is directed by Bob Fosse before he did All That Jazz, which of course has a Blu-ray from the Criterion Collection, which is an amazing film. This does carry over the audio commentary from that Twilight Time release, the one that was done by film historians Nick Redman and Julie Kergo. So if you missed out on that release many, many years ago, you get that special feature here. It also comes with a new video essay. It also comes with it's actually two video essays. One is by Kat Ellinger, so you've got that in here. And yeah, this movie's great. This movie's really, really good. It is streaming, I believe, on Tubi right now. So if you don't want to wait for this release, or if you just want to check out the movie before you buy it, um, definitely recommend giving it a watch. It's part of that whole run I say of Dustin Hoffman in the 70s and into the 80s. That was really the golden part of his career. He was
Yeah.
in so many great things during that time, and Lenny is one of them. I know, Stephen, you had mentioned that you wanted to check this movie out.
I do. Yeah. I mean, I I'm a fan, like you said, a fan of that period of Dustin Hoffman's career. He was just fucking killing it with
Yeah, the late
everything he
'60s
did.
with, starting with The Graduate and then
And it
everything after
wasn't just
that.
and he wasn't just he was doing very challenging roles from Midnight Cowboy to you know what was the one we did from One Archive straight. Was it one
Oh, not Straight Talk, that's something else. I'm um,
where
I'm
he's
gonna
a
look it up.
prisoner, he gets out of prison, and then the first thing he does is goes and robs him. He
Yeah, the
can't get
first thing
off.
he
Yeah,
does is he gets right back into it. Actually, he's
but
kind of forced back into it by the shittiest
yeah,
parole officer you will ever find. You will
yeah.
ever find.
But even of course, more into this Kramer versus Kramer.
Uh,
He was
it's
like
called
just
Straight Time.
straight
So you were
time.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in
So
All the President's Men, Straw
yeah,
Dogs. Talk about a challenging role in
just
there.
fucking just all over the place.
Little Big Man was the western that he was in.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Now I tell you, I was talking about this movie with a friend the other day, or actually not really the other day, about a month ago. Papillon, um, the one from 19 1973. He and Steve McQueen are criminals on like a prison. Really, it's kind of like Shawshank Redemption before Shawshank Redemption. It's kind of like The Great Escape. Um, yeah, I think it's called Papillon. Maybe I'm just saying that as the French term, but Papillon. Maybe some people pronounce it like that. They remade it a few years ago. This is the Franklin J. Schaffner film that I'm talking about. Um, yeah, I
Oh,
find that movie amazing. I gotta get it. There's a Warner Brothers digibook that came out in 2011, and it was one of those films that they then re-released from their Warner Archive line, like they did with Cabaret, and they did that with Meet Me in St. Louis as well. They put out a digibook, and then years later they just re-released it through Warner Archive. But I want to get that original digibook release. I would like to see that movie get a nice new Blu-ray. A lot of those early 2010s and late 2000s Warner Brothers movies need re-releases on Blu-ray anyways. But yeah, Lenny by Dustin Hoffman, highly recommended. Highly recommended. And then I think not
got a
lastly
couple
here.
more. Got a couple more.
Oh god, we got Islands in the Stream.
Yes.
Uh,
Starring
uh, it,
George C.
C.
Scott.
Scott, Franklin J. Schaffner. Once again, I was just talking about him for Papillon. We've got a movie starring George C. Scott. Man, he's been getting a lot of releases lately, and I'm loving it. Um, so this is based off of an Ernest Hemingway novel that I think was published well after his death. So um, posthumous film. For those of you who don't know, Franklin J. Schaffner also directed Patton, which starred George C. Scott several years earlier than this film, when this film came out. Um, it's a movie that is interesting. It reminded me a lot of, um, To Have and Have Not, which was
Hmm.
also based off of a Ernest Hemingway novel. It's a similar type of premise. You'll understand it, once I describe it to you. Um, yeah, so this movie, uh, stars, like I said, George C. Scott. He is a former artist who's now a sculptor, and he's living on an island, I believe in the Caribbean or the Bahamas somewhere. And his sons are visiting him for the summer. He's got three children from two different marriages. One was a marriage. Well, actually, first one, I think I don't know if it was a relationship or a marriage, but either way. So the first one he had a great relationship with, and the second woman he had a terrible relationship with, and he's got three children. I think one from his oldest boy is from the first marriage, and his two younger ones are from the second marriage, and they come to visit him for the summer. So the movie is like partially a family wholesome film of his sons that he doesn't get to see, and those types of things. And then the second part of the film is more of a kind of like political tense movie. So yeah, and the reason why I'm saying that is that the backdrop of this is World War II. So he's living in the Bahamas during World War II, seemingly away from all of the action that's going on in Europe. He's not really doing anything with that. But what is happening is people and refugees from Europe are being smuggled to to like the United States and to other places through the Bahamas. So he kind of gets caught up in that. So the war kind of comes to him. And that's why it reminded me of To Have and Have Not, because there's a part of To Have and Have Not where the war kind of comes to the Humphrey Bogart character and he's got to do this mission and it's dangerous and all that kind of stuff. And that similar type of mission of transporting people happens in this movie, but it happens in like the second half later on, whereas the bulk of this movie is just him reconnecting with his sons and going on like boat fishing trips. And he's got a rather a difficult relationship with his middle son who was around for when he was very physically abusive and drunkard with the middle boy's mother. So the boy is harboring a lot of anger emotions towards him and all that kind of stuff. So they're working through that and reconnecting and all those things. It's a fine movie. I don't think it's a terrible movie at all. I think George C. Scott is really, really good in it. And the direction is really good as well. But it's a mixture of two different tonal things going on in this movie, like harsh tonal things. And you've got to like kind of wrestle with this, you know, this interesting character in George C. Scott that's going on here. I like that they got him to play it because he can portray both of those things. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's Islands in the Stream, and then now we get to Lastly. Lastly, we got an interesting film here, Steven.
Doesn't look that interesting. It's only about kings of the gypsies. I
Oh,
mean,
you would think so. So King of the Gypsies. Um, this film, the cast. First of all, we're gonna roll through some names here that may seem familiar to people. Sterling Hayden, Shelley Winters, Susan Sarandon, Brooke Shields, Annette O'Toole, Judd Hirsch, and the main character in this movie, in I believe making his screen debut, is 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 Eric Roberts. I paused for effect there, Stephen.
Mr.
You gave me
Coca-Cola
nothing.
Kid. Mr.
Yes,
Coca-Cola Kid.
yes. Um, and this movie is interesting because you don't get to Eric Roberts until a good portion of the way into this movie, because this movie is trying to tell this story of this family kind of from its origins all the way up to the Eric Roberts character. And
So he
and
so he gets to be the Marlon Brando of
it's kind of like a gangster film, but it's dealing with this, the gypsy families and the
well,
gypsy
I
culture and
was
all this
just
kind of
thinking
stuff.
Apocalypse Now, like where you don't see Marlon Brando for
Oh,
like the
okay.
first, and then you
When you said
finally
Marlon
get to
Brando, I immediately went to The Godfather. Don't ask me why.
sure, yeah, yeah.
But I'm thinking like that's how it's structured though, because it's structured like a crime family but it's interesting because that culture is
So
not
so it's a
organized
Guy Ritchie
crime.
movie. It's a Guy Ritchie movie from
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, if you're thinking of Snatch.
yeah.
So you get the origins of the family that this Eric Roberts character is in, and you get to see the grandfather character who kind of sets up this family. The grandfather character is Sterling Hayden. Sterling Hayden is an actor I think many people may know, may not know. I know him kind of from being a heavy in like film noir stuff. That's where I know Sterling Hayden from. He was also in Doctor Strangelove, and he was oh man, he was what's his name in Doctor Strangelove? The guy who goes crazy and basically starts the nuclear war.
Peter Sellers?
He's General Jack D. Ripper. Remember he's in that office with Peter Sellers and he's just like
Yeah.
losing his effing mind
Yeah, yeah.
because he's so goddamn paranoid. So that's Sterling Hayden was in that, but he was also in um oh yeah, he's been in several movies that I for some reason are leaving my head right now. Like he's in Johnny Guitar. Um I'm trying to get the main one that he was in. The Asphalt Jungle. That's the one he was in. I was trying to get the main film noir that he was in is the Asphalt Jungle, the John Huston film. But back to what I was saying about the Gypsy King of the Gypsies is you get the Sterling Hayden character who kind of sets up this marriage between he and this other family, and he basically kidnaps the young girl to marry his young son when they're just kids, and the young girl grows up to be is Susan Sarandon when she's an adult, and then the young boy turned out to be Judd Hirsch, and then they have a son, and the son is Eric Roberts. So you can understand kind of this succession here of what's going on. Judd Hirsch in this movie is the biggest piece of garbage I've ever seen Judd Hirsch play in a movie. He's a drunk, violent piece of garbage dude in this movie.
So he's not
and Eric
he's not
Roberts
the
wants
wholesome
nothing to do with him.
he's not the wholesome guy from
Taxi?
Independence Day,
No, because I'm so used to Judd Hirsch being that wholesome guy.
or his
In like,
character in Fablemans.
oh yeah, the inspiring uncle in the Fablemans,
Yeah.
or in Taxi, he's like the wise leader of that group of people. He's the guy that everybody goes to, that when they're having problems, they turn to him. No, he's a drunk, abusive bag of trash in this movie. And
So
and Eric
he's
Roberts,
Paulie from Rocky.
you kind of get worse, I think.
Worse. Probably. Yeah.
That's it. If because Paulie doesn't have a family. Well, he's got Adrian, but he doesn't have a wife or kids. I couldn't imagine. Paulie would have been a terrible parent and husband, father.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, Paulie's is your drunk friend that you just kind of like tolerate.
Feel sorry for. Yeah, but you're like, fuck, dude, come on, get your shit together.
Yeah, you trust him with all your money, and then he loses it because I don't know why you trusted Paulie with all your money.
That shows you how much brain damage Rocky fucking had.
My goodness. Yeah,
that was not a person you trust
money with.
That's like, the thing you missed in that. That's the thing you missed in Rocky 5 is, they're talking about his brain damage, but you're like...
Yeah, Rocky's biggest loss was never in the ring. It was giving Paulie any type of run of his money.
Yeah.
But moving up, but from there, but like I'm saying, Judd Hirsch in this movie is really, really a bad dude. But what you get is kind of the chronicle of this family, them moving around, being nomadic, like pulling off kind of schemes and things, getting into that culture, into all of those things. And Eric Roberts like doesn't want anything to do with it. He at one point in the film, he kind of leaves that world behind a bit, but then he gets pulled back into it because his grandfather's dying, Sterling Hayden. And Sterling Hayden was kind of the only person in his family that he really liked, other than his sisters. And one of his sisters is portrayed by Brooke Shields, actually. But so he gets pulled back into that world, and what happens is Sterling Hayden wants to pass on this title of the King of the Gypsies to Eric Roberts' character and not the son, Judd Hirsch. So that creates all kinds of friction and problems and things like that. And it's really, the movie's kind of that's a portion of the movie, but it's really a character study about the Eric Roberts character and his resistance and trying to break out of this toxic world that he lives in. Yeah, it's a really good movie. I really like this film a lot. So underrated movie. I had never seen it before. I never actually heard of it before. This movie really feels like a movie that I'm surprised Fun City didn't put out an edition of.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like a Fun City Editions movie all over it.
Hey, still could.
Still very much good, I guess.
Yeah.
But this is coming with commentary by Daniel Kramer, interview with editor Paul Hirsch, trailers from hell, Michael Schlesinger on King of the Gypsies. And then you get an interview with Eric Roberts from 1978. Wow. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Underrated movie that I never seen before, King of the Gypsies. And I want to say, where did I see this streaming? Oh yeah, I saw it streaming. It's available on Canopy, and it's also available to rent from like Amazon and Google and YouTube, Vudu, and all that kind of stuff. Very cheap rental for like $4 or $5. Definitely worth it. So yeah, I think that's the last of it, right?
That is the last of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, another good Imprint slate.
Definitely, yeah, a solid way to end the year.
Oh yeah.
Damn, very impressed. Very impressed.
Definitely. Well, that does it for Spy Number 117. Thank you, Andrew Cabral, for giving us all your knowledge.
Thank you for letting me express myself, getting all of that out, because I had all this built up all week.
Now you've offloaded, and now you can reload.
Yeah, I get
slowly throughout the week.
Quick turnaround because it is the last week of September, I think. Yes.
Yes.
And then there's got to be
Arrow,
something's on the
Arrow and
horizon.
Eureka will be this week.
They shall. Plus whatever else is cooking out there in the works. October 1st will be here sooner than we think. More Vinegar Syndrome, and then the whole month starts all over again like clockwork. Got some good stuff on the horizon. Then we get into stuff that's coming out next year. Damn, already.
I don't even want to think about next year.
Yeah, I can't even think about next year. I can't even think about next month, to be honest. Like Halloween's close, and I'm like,
I'm excited. I'm excited for fall weather. It's already starting to cool down, so I'm like,
oh yeah, definitely here. The temperature changed rather quickly. Yes. It catches me off guard every year, and I always get a little cold.
Yep. But Andrew, where can you be found, sir?
You can find me on Twitter at Cabzilla06 or X, as it's still being called. I forgot to add that little moniker in there, at Cabzilla06. Our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
You can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings, or at the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it's our X page or our Instagram or over at our Facebook group. You can find me and Andrew in there. You can chat with us. You can post about movies, releases. Give it a whirl. And then you can find the audio for this podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening, and hey, keep watching them movies.
I will.